I'm here living the dream in 2025, and this, guys, is the first episode in Tenerife 25. But before we get into the video, I'm going to make a cup of coffee, take you up to my home office, and tell you what to expect from this episode.
Hi, I'm Graham, and this is my wife Fiona, and we have always had a work hard, play hard philosophy. From London to New York, and of course the Caribbean, we live our dream through travel. And of course, the odd cocktail. And here on YouTube, we create our memories while living our dream. So come and join us as we share our memories with you.
As you can see from the thumbnail to this episode, this, guys, is a trip report, and it's a trip report on board Jet2 from Glasgow down to Tenerife South. And if you're a regular viewer to the channel, you will know that Fiona and I have made many trip reports on board Jet2 over the years, and in fact we last visited Tenerife using Jet2 back in July 2019, and the last Jet2 flights were down to Lanzarote twice in 2023. And in all my trip reports on board Jet2, we've given them the thumbs up, and in fact in my book they're one of the best low-cost holiday airlines here in the UK. The question is, are they still any good in 2025? What I want to say is I booked this particular holiday as a package on the jet2.com website. I've not spoken to a human being through the entire booking process. It was booked as an atoll protected package holiday, including the flights on board Jet2, of course, and the H10 Gran Tenerife in Playa del Americas. So starting off in 2025, the jet2.com website is just as good, in our opinion, as it always has been. A month ahead of travel, we were able to print out all of our vouchers, the flight vouchers, the hotel vouchers, the private transfer vouchers, and even our boarding passes, which compared to TUI, who was the last British tour operator we used down to Paphos just over 18 months ago, Jet2 are really good. And I was even able to go back into the booking after I'd made it and order some food for the flight back to Glasgow because it's a lunchtime flight. And that's also one thing I'd like to say. In 2025, Jet2 seem to be operating 2 flights a day between Glasgow and Tenerife. We're going to take the later flight down to Tenerife, which gets us in at around 8 p.m. at night-ish. But on the way back, we're going to get the earlier flight, which leaves around 12:20 and gets us back into Glasgow before 5 p.m. A lot more civilized, in our opinion. With just under a week to go, it's still a thumbs up for Jet2, and by the power of video, I'm going to transport you now 6 days ahead until the day of travel. As you can see, guys, it's Tuesday, and we've got a taxi booked for 11:30 to take us to the airport. And by the power of video, that's where you'll next join us. Right in front of me is the main terminal at Glasgow, known as Terminal M. And this is where you would check in for all flights departing Glasgow on all airlines except Jet2. Jet2 use the St Andrews building, sometimes known as Terminal 2. And this, guys, is a temporary porta-cabin type building, well, temporary back in the early 70s, maybe even the late 60s. And as you will see in a second, Terminal 2 is situated at the end of the main terminal at Glasgow Airport. And as you can see, guys, this is
Terminal 2 check-in at Glasgow Airport. And while I say this is a temporary building, my comments aren't meant to be derogatory, because when you arrive at the Jet2 check-in area at Terminal 2, you're met by a sea of Jet2 staff, their sole purpose to welcome you and get you through this check-in process as quickly as possible and through to the main terminal. And as you can see, like so many airlines in the 21st century, you go to one of these easy to use kiosks to self-check in before heading to bag drop. You know guys, Jet2 have the check-in process completely nailed at Glasgow Airport. In all my years of flying, I've never come across an airline with this level of quality when it comes to check-in. They've just got so many staff there to help you on your way through the check-in process. They're a very, very good airline here in Glasgow. Okay, Fiona and I are now on our way through to security. We're now approaching the main downstairs check-in hall at Glasgow Airport. And as I said earlier guys, this is where you check in for all other airlines at Glasgow except Jet2. And as you'll have seen in so many of my previous episodes, you simply head up the escalator for security. And like so many other airports in the United Kingdom, Glasgow have now deployed the latest security scanning technology, which means there is no need to empty your bag of electronics or liquids before sending them through the scanner. However, you will still need to remove your belt. Make sure your pockets are empty, and for liquids, you're still limited to the 100 millilitres per item. And on both occasions that I've had to depart from Glasgow Airport in the previous 6 weeks, I'm extremely impressed by the efficiency of the security clearance procedure at this UK airport. However guys, the fantastic new security screening process at Glasgow Airport doesn't mean you avoid running the duty-free shop gauntlet. We checked in for our Tenerife South bound flight 3 hours before departure, so just around 12:30, and our flight wasn't due to leave until 3:15. That meant it was lunchtime, and being creatures of habit, Fiona and I were heading for Frankie and Benny's, or so we thought, because actually guys, it's now closed in Glasgow Airport. We therefore needed a plan B. Satisfied with the menu, we'd found our plan B. While there was a paper menu at this airport restaurant, you still had to use your mobile phone and a QR code to order your food, which would then be delivered to the table. We paid using Apple Pay on our phone, but equally you could have noted down your table number, gone to the bar and ordered your food and drink there, paying by cash or credit card. However, the one thing that I will never get used to at Glasgow Airport is the price of their beer. Nearly £7 a pint, guys, is even more than a decent city centre pub in Glasgow. Anyway, we're off to the gate now to catch our flight down to Tenerife South. And this, guys, is the Boeing 737-800 in the livery of Jet2 Holidays that will be taking us on the nearly 5-hour flight down to Tenerife South. Fiona and I would be sitting in seats 3A and 3B for this flight down to Tenerife, and despite being in boarding group 1, would be one of the last to board the aircraft. And it's really not an issue, guys, because unlike your usual British Airways service between here in Glasgow and London, this is of course a holiday flight carrying passengers to their holiday, of course.
Hi.
Hiya. Thank you. Thank you. And at nearly every interaction that you have with a Jet2 representative here at Glasgow, they wish you a good holiday. Anyway, Anyway, back to the reason that it's not a problem boarding last on board a Jet2 aircraft. The simple fact is, guys, this is a holiday flight and all of the passengers will have their luggage in the hold. Because unlike the 2 or 3 day commuters between Glasgow and London, what passenger heading on their annual 2 weeks to Spain is going to be able to put everything into a carry-on bag? And yes, guys, I know I'm afraid for the second time this year I've been cursed by the dirty aeroplane window. It's not going to make for good footage outside the window.
In front of you, you'll find a safety instruction card.
It has all sorts of safety information, with details about emergency doors and escape routes, oxygen masks, how to use the life jacket, the brace position, and more.
It's only as I edit this episode that I realised how dirty this aeroplane window actually was. I'm really sorry, guys, for the poor footage. And as we pass the Loganair maintenance hangar on our left, we're heading in the direction of runway 05 here at Glasgow. And with prevailing winds in this part of the world being southwesterly, I'm not saying that a 05 departure is that unusual, but certainly looking back at all of my episodes here in the channel, the vast majority were departing on runway 23. So this is going to be a little bit different in this episode. It's certainly a little bit different departing over the River Clyde, then Drumchapel, Bearsden and then Mulgai before overflying the Campsies with a view of Loch Lomond off to our left. This flight was scheduled to take just over 4 hours and 20 minutes. However, before we pushed back from the gate, the first officer advised us that we were looking at a wicked headwind that would put our flight time at nearly 5 hours this afternoon. And Fiona and I would do our best to grin and bear one of the most uncomfortable aeroplane seats that you could fly on in Europe. There was an upside to this flight though, because it was only approximately 2/3 full, and Fiona and I had a row to ourselves. Fiona had purchased some chocolate from W.H. Smith in the airport before we boarded this flight down to Tenerife, but as you can see, we did order some coffee to go with her chocolate. So while I watched some Steve Marsh on YouTube visiting the other Glasgow, of course Glasgow, Nova Scotia, I think Fiona was watching Virgin River on Netflix. And that's a point I should probably make, guys, because on these older Jet2 Boeing 737-800, there are no in-seat USB chargers, so remember to bring a battery pack or two with you. And as you can see, a couple of hours later, Fiona and I did order some drinks, a wine for Fiona and a beer for me. The friendly cabin attendant was keen to sell me more beer than I wanted. I only wanted one, and it was Estrella, one of my favourite beers, a beer that you will find in my beer fridge at home. And other than that, guys, it was an uneventful flight, other than it taking half an hour longer than it should have due to the wind. Nothing the Jet2 crew could do about that. As you can see here, we're descending just to the north of Tenerife Island itself, and with the sun setting to the west, you can clearly see Mount Tidy at just under 12,200 feet. So the whole reason for this episode was to rate Jet2 in 2025. Starting with the check-in process in T2 at Glasgow. Yes, guys, it was absolutely fantastic. In our opinion, Jet2 offer the best check-in experience of any other airline in Europe. The boarding process is absolutely fine, and the onboard service is also extremely good, with very friendly and professional cabin crew. And of course, the two guys at the pointy end kept us updated on our progress throughout the flight. And if I had one criticism about Jet2, it is of course their seat comfort. And while I totally understand Jet2 wanting to use space saver and therefore weight saver seats, all of saving weight and therefore fuel is at the expense of their customer. Because let me tell you guys, after 5 hours on board the seat on board a Jet2 Boeing 737-800, you're glad to get off. Jet2 are replacing these Boeing 737-800s with brand new Airbus A321 Neos. In fact, one of my good friends is a captain on board Jet2 in command of one of the brand new A321s. I just hope the seats on board the Airbuses are better than these Boeing seats. But I guess I'm not going to know for a while, guys, because they're not due to replace the Boeing fleet at Glasgow for the new Airbus A321s for some time yet. So if you want to fly from Scotland to Tenerife on a Jet2 Airbus A321, I'm afraid, guys, you will need to head to Edinburgh for that. Okay, I'm going to shut up now, guys, and let you enjoy this landing at Tenerife South, despite the dirty window.
Can't wait to enjoy your holiday, but for now you must stay seated and buckled up until we've come to a complete stop.
When you do get up to go, please make sure you've got your phone, passport, keys and all other valuables. Anything left behind will be handed to our ground team here.
I hope you enjoyed this look at Fiona's and my Jet2 experience in July 2025. In the next episode, I'm going to review the arrival process here at Tenerife South in July 2025, including our private Jet2 transfer from the airport to a resort, which is of course the H10 Grand Tenerife. And it goes without say, if you want to continue to follow Fiona and I as we enjoy Tenerife in July 2025, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when our next video is published. Thank you so much for watching.